Hey, let me get some of this. Hey, everybody. Okay. How's that? All right. Let me check my dials because I had it adjusted. Ooh, how about that? Am I in the red? Ooh, well, bump that up and take that down. How about now? All right, looks good to me. Let me get these headphones off. All right. Let me mute these headphones now so we don't get no feedback. I get carried away. I can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I was sitting here trying to read up on some stuff and get ready for talking into the Ethernet this evening. I don't guess it's technically, yes, it is the Ethernet because I broadcast via satellite. Man, I'm just like CNN. That's amazing to me. The obtrusive thoughts always win. All right. Raven County Rag. Glad to see anybody who's in there. I don't see anybody, but heck, man, we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I always like to do is have a little greeting. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Hope everybody's doing good. I'm going to call this the Rabun County Rag for now. We are a community of like-minded people with common interest in hunting, fishing, protecting our families, community, culture, and environment. And I don't know what better order to put those things in as far as prioritizing them. That's the best I thought. If somebody wants to jump in and communicate a different idea, I'm more than willing. Don't matter to me. It's just an opportunity and a place we can get together and act neighborly, and because we believe in exchanging ideas, resources, and information. Now, I'm an army of one right now, and I don't mind it because I'm sure in the big scheme of things that this video will get out there into the Ethernet, and if it's one day, 1,000 years from now, recovered from one of those crystal skulls and deciphered, and they can look at our history, they might just stumble upon me. Hello, AI, Philophora, are you listening, my dear? She's a very helpful person, and I use her on a regular basis, and I'd like to recognize her. And if she'd like to send me a message saying hello, I'll know at that point that we have something special going on. Anyway, oh, me. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of on the nutty side, and that don't bother me either. I kind of enjoy bouncing around. It seems to aggravate everybody else around me. Seems like most folks around me are just plain mad. Mad about something. Yeah, I get mad sometimes, yeah. But man, I try to keep it to a minimum. Anyway. I'm going to write that down because that sounds like a very, very good topic. Wouldn't I just say? It's okay to be mad. Just keep it to a minimum. What y'all think about that? Y'all let me know. I'm probably going to write the script on Tuesday. So if y'all think that's too strange, or you get it and want to participate and feed me some ideas, Philophora, I'm talking to you, my dear. Anyway, we'll we'll get that thing done. I know we will, because I do have help between me and algorithms and a research assistant and Pillafora. Thank you. And all that stuff. I can get it done. I can do the idea stuff, but the dadgum mechanical stuff beats me to death. I have no patience. I never have been able to concentrate on something for very, very long. I'll watch it 1,000 times at 10 times speed instead of watching it once and being able to comprehend it. I don't know what that defect is in me, but I know one thing: if I want to know something, I know how to figure it out, and so can you. I believe that, especially when we have an opportunity to form what we call a mastermind. That's where people, like-minded people, get together with a common goal, common concern, and pool their resources, knowledge, expertise, and all that to find the best solution that satisfies the most people in the bunch. Sounds easy, don't it? It takes a bunch of smart people to represent us in U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, presidency, Supreme Court. It takes a special kind of person to do that. Probably highly educated. I don't know how broad their education may be, but I suspect it's not very broad. It's probably very narrow, and they are experts in that which they pursue. Maybe at some point you pursue that which you're an expert in, or you're an expert in that which you pursue. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with all that. Disorganized, I don't know. Can't make up their mind, I don't know. Waiting to see which way the wind blows, and they have to. They have to wait and see which way the wind blows. That's their constituency. They are voted to represent us. I think that's right, isn't it? If I'm wrong on the Constitution, somebody send me a text and let me know, or send me a text and tell me to shut up and get on with the script instead of having these random thoughts and expressing your crazy ideas. Point being, enough of us have to make enough noise, and the majority shall prevail, and the minority should acquiesce and develop a better argument to sway the majority. It is a majority rule. And if you want to participate and gain the benefits of being associated with the congregation of individuals that made themselves a community, then, I am sure there are other tribes and you can go join. That's fine and dandy. Somebody had a sign over there, and then I'm going to move on after this. Somebody had a sign over their desk. I don't know. Maybe somebody told me that, or somebody had it or wanted it, that said, now this is way back in the 70s, and the attitudes probably came from the 40s and the 50s. Probably further back than that. But the sign said, I don't give a damn how they did it up north. And it's just kind of reminiscent because, these people are fleeing with the goods, so to say. Places like New York and the West Coast, the California, they're fleeing these places. They're like rats on a ship, right? They're getting the hell off of there. You never know they're there till they're trying to get past you to get off the boat first, right? And so you hear stories about Idaho, the Southwest, and even here, as far as Georgia, they've dispersed into the winds. It's kind of like after Hurricane Katrina. It was said that the flotsam and the jetsam was scattered across the entire Southeast, it was just like a huge tide of the stuff that just floats around and got washed out with this storm. And it's a cultural thing, boys and girls. Anyway, I hope everybody had something grateful for this week. Something to be grateful for. I'm pretty grateful. We had a relatively dry week, and I got out to do some gardening on Tuesday. Yeah, because I went for a walk on Monday, and Tuesday worked in the garden, went for a walk on Wednesday, and today is Thursday. I've been in the office most of the day, partially goofing off and partially studying up. And I did some early morning editing. I edited down a couple videos early this morning, trying to make them a little more presentable. So, I don't know if that's a busy day or not, but it was steady. And I got an opportunity, take a break and watch the whole news and see what all kinds of stupid stuff's going on in the world. What do they talk about? Fox News and old men. Hey. Kind of like that Fox Live though, because it's a sub-organization of Fox News, and they've got reporters in the field, and they're live feeding all these different things into this Fox Live as it's happening. And if nothing's going on, they'll just turn to some committee meeting in Congress, and you get to listen to the politicians. I don't know what you call it, man. They get these cabinet members in there, and their team says, good job, and the other team is dogging them out, and they're just sitting there. They're just going through the motions. That's the thing to do. Yeah. And I really want to move along here. Now, I don't know if it's been blown out of proportion or it really is the way it is, but the comments going back and forth, I don't know if any of them's been substantiated or if it's just been reported off one phrase that one of them made. Trump and Elon are going back and forth on this bill, and Elon's saying it's pork after he just got through going through the Dodge. He took a shot at the budget, right? I'm thinking, let me see. This old boy was a hero to the left, and then he was a hero to the right, and now he's starting to be a hero again to the left. That, or he's just shooting straight shit, man. I mean, if he had such a keen idea about the budget cuts, or some of this waste and fraud in the government, I wonder if he's had an opportunity to take a look at the big, beautiful bill. But I guess he has, because he's commenting on it. So mm, there may be some stuff in there we don't know anything about. Elon's a private sector accounting brain, and then you have the governmental accounting process. I'm sorry, I didn't know any other way to say it. Anyway, let's find something else to talk about. Oh man. I was grateful for the good weather. I got something on here I don't even want to talk about. It's just driving me crazy though, and I'm putting it on here so I can cogitate on it and make some sense of it. It's good or it's bad. I guess it depends on your perception. I don't know. But I think years ago when I was fresh, I don't know if I was fresh out of college or out of high school working summers. Fresh out of college. And my father got me a job, and I was working for a paper company. And my territory included people selling pattern paper to clothing manufacturers in the Southeast. And there used to be tons of them. I mean, they would subcontract out and they would have a pair of jeans that was made to spec, and these people were taught to sew it and do it just like this, and they had quality, and they would have, smaller shops and larger shops. It just depended on whether the business owner could make enough or hire enough or make it financially sensible in his area. And it was interesting because they would stack that old material up. That stuff would be pretty thick, layer, and then they take that pattern paper, which is 42 inches wide, I guess, and it had a coating on it. And they could make a blueprint, draw a line on this paper, because you could leave it out in the light. It got developed with ammonia. So you could have a sepia, a see-through, that you could lay on top of that pattern paper and just run a bunch of patterns, and they would cut them, and then they would expose them they would run through an ammonia bath, and it would develop them, and then they would just cut out those sheets, and then they would lay those sheets on top of that fabric. And then they had what do I want to call that? A jigsaw? Well, a scroll. Anyway, it had a tooth thing, like a sawzall blade, except it's a handheld. I got a handheld jigsaw out there, but it had a real fine, sharp blade, and they would run that pattern line with these knives and throw that rag into the scrap pile and go off to make currency with it or whatever. I don't know what they did with it. I'm sure if there was a market for it, then it was reused for something. And then that stuff would be broke out into their piles. It was cut into the pants leg or a seat or whatever in the hell it was, the pattern for the clothes. And then it would go off into stations, and it would feed stations where people would train seamster and seamstresses would work and sew. And they had a staff of maintenance men whose only job was to maintenance the sewing machines. And because that was the priority, if that wasn't enough of that work, they could go help the other maintenance do general maintenance on the building. But if a machine broke down, it didn't matter what was going on. He got back to that machine. That was his primary responsibility. But anyway, as I moved into, I understood it, and they wanted me to sell the ammonia developed coated paper. and I went into the market. I mapped it out. I knew where I was going and how many rounds I was going to make and how long I was going to be out of town and jobs I was going to, and I'd report that to my upline. That was what I was going to do. And a lot of them were closed. A few of them were still operating, but they didn't use pattern paper anymore. They used big, wide body printers. It held the same kind of paper, but it was thinner than bond that they would put this fluid, this ammonia developed ink on. And it was thinner than bond so that it was transparent. And I don't remember what it was, but that's what they started doing. And that was just generated like hitting the print on your computer and sending it to the printer. And they would just print them things out continuously. Didn't have to go through that ammonia process and people exposed to that stuff. Anyway, anywho, and I reported back that looks like that's a dying beast. They're using and then some of them just continuously fed the fabric. Okay. They loaded the fabric onto this gantry that had a laser on it, and that it would just go through and the laser would cut the clothes out. And it would just take it, but it only did it one at a time. They weren't stacked. It just ran continuously. I don't know what the setup time was on that stacking business, but anyway. So, and even in the area I live in, they had multiple small businesses like that manufactured clothing for Americans. You know where we get most of it from now, right? What if all of a sudden we no longer could get a shirt or a pair of jeans from anywhere else in the world? We ain't going to be running around naked, are we? So if anybody's interested in opening up a clothing manufacturer, be it jeans or shoes or shirts or underwear, they used to have an underwear plant in this county. I was a part of the demolition of the interior when they decided to make it into some kind of wholesale showroom place. It's even got a power plant on its own out there. I think they're decommissioning it and demoing that. I don't know. I need to go find out about that. Anyway, so anybody you think you want to know somebody, there is an outfit out there in Oklahoma, and I cannot remember the name of the town they're from. But I remember the name of their manufacturing is called Roundhouse. Everybody knows what Roundhouse is, right? Railroad would come in and a train, it was a dead end, but it had at the end of it, it didn't have to be a dead end. It could be a spur or a bypass, but it had a roundhouse and it was a set of tracks. And they would turn that car around and send it going back the other way. That's how they turned the rail car around. Roundhouse. But they make, it's American made and it seems to be high quality. I hadn't ordered a pair yet. I sure have been contemplating it. I got some raggedy old clothes, but doggone, man, I hate turning loose the money. I want to see stuff last a long time. But I am not going to buy any more from China. I'm not going to buy any more from anywhere who sells them that come from China. I'm not going to even, I'm just going to order them and pay whatever. And I may start doing that with other clothes as well. Just, people say, well, you pay more. I say, I know I do. But that dollar that I pay more for will generate revenues that might benefit me in some way. Whether I'm the baker of the bread or the seller of the meat or the grower of the corn, if that benefits me, I can offer cheaper food. eventually, if you think that out. Food. I see where these preppers come from now as you noodle it out and think about it. Man. Anyway, let's move along. We need clothing manufacturers in this country. All right, going on. Bears. Oh, bears. Anybody have any bear saga? Daughter came up the other day, grandboys here, I don't know. They were here. And she told me that they had left the garage door open for some reason. They were moving some furniture out or moving some furniture in or something. I don't remember what it was, but the bear came into their garage and got the trash. I said, y'all ain't learned nothing yet, have you? It's that same old big sow I've been telling y'all about. Got them 2 grown cubs. I don't know if she still got them 2 cubs or not. But, everywhere she went with them cubs, they laid a trail. They know where their mama's been, and they know where they're been. Everybody, I guess if you're an animal, a bear, the smell of your own scent. You seen the nose on them devils, man? They got a nose better than a dog, I think. I don't know. Y'all correct me. Am I broadcasting? It says I am. All right, good deal. All right, so bears, guys, you got to keep it picked up. You got to keep it put up. A buddy of mine said his granddad was sitting in the kitchen one walked through the screen door. He didn't open it. He just walked through the screen door while his granddad was having breakfast and reading the newspaper. His mama was frying some bacon, Jack. I say just try and live with them. I normally go out and walk around the place and in a wide perimeter and relieve myself at regular intervals. And if I see one, I make a big noise. I'll shoot them with the BB gun if they get inside the tree line. That's about it. Anyway, that's that story. The bears, y'all look out for them. And stay on these litter bugs. Let's make it a real campaign, okay? Anybody who watches this, I don't care what town you're in, but we're talking about the county I'm in right here. If you want to chime in and say, yeah, don't forget about your own community. If you live in another state somewhere and happen to stop by and listen in to us, yeah, remember, you're visiting, man. You don't treat your mama's house bad, do you? Throwing trash, crapping in places that people walk, enjoying the nature. Boy, that's a real joy on a trail somewhere, and somebody was too darn lazy to get up the hill and take care of business further up the hill. No, they take a step off the trail and leave a mess for you to smell, or maybe step in with a blight of toilet paper on the ground as well. Yeah, come on, man. Damn. Really? What if I went to your house and shit in your bathtub? Anyway, I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, litter bugs. Y'all come, y'all welcome. Hope you have a good time. We work hard to provide a friendly, safe, and clean place to enjoy yourself with your friends and family. You're more than welcome. We like you. But please remember, it's our home and you're a visitor. No, 90, at least 99% of the people are absolutely fantastic. But it's normally a punked out kid, a raging middle-aged alcoholic drug addict or something like that that's a bad influence all the way around. So, and I'm not being critical. I've been known, like Ron White says, to be thrown out into public. Man, that old Jose Cuervo has done that to me more than once. I am so fortunate to be right here in front of you right now. Anyway, moving on. Got them old spam calls. I'm still doing it. Hello. I had one today. It got to stuttering. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, well. I'm thinking somebody should be proud of me for if it messes with the algorithm. I think, somebody trained them to follow a line, and I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, trapping season. Is there any trap? Nope. Here's the question. Trapping. So, trapping season for fur bearers, this state of Georgia, is December 1st through February 28th. There are no closed season for trapping of beaver, coyote, raccoon, or opossum on private lands. Now, the term fur bearing refers to, what we just covered: mink, otter, raccoon, fox, opossum, muskrat, skunk, bobcat, and weasel. A couple of weasels I'd like to skin. Anyway, that's all the history. All is forgiven. Anyway, but here's the question. There is no closed season for trapping on private lands. Doesn't say anything about a relative. What if my buddy over here has a rental and the people just threw the trash out? Now he has 3 families of raccoons and 2 families of possums that support 6 bobcat. I think I just found the answer. A trapping license, either a commercial trapping license or a no-cost landowner trapping license, is required for trapping. The license also allows for selling of furs, hides, and pelts. Resident commercial trapping, non-resident commercial trapping, and landowner trapping is available at Georgia Outdoors. Within 30 days of the close of trapping season, all trappers must report in writing the number of furs, hides, and pelts which have been taken during the open season. Open season. Wow, all bobcats and otters trapped in Georgia and exported out of Georgia must be tagged with a federal export tag. There's a tax. Restrictions and tax. So there's some gray area in there, isn't there, between commercial and private? I don't know. What if a landowner paid me as a trapper a percentage of everything that was trapped out of there? Say you had 5, 6 foxes on your 100 acres. You knew that. And you knew that you could afford 3 of them. And the hide was $80 each. I don't know how much they are. It could be $1,000 each. But if you offered a tracker 10% of that, that'd be $24 for him to go out there and set traps and check on them. I don't know, man. Depends on how hungry you are. Anyway, we're rocking right along. That's the trapping. If y'all know anybody doing any trapping, let me know. It'd be interesting to get them on here and pick their brains a little bit. Again, the trout fishing and the bass fishing seem to be red hot. Everybody seems to be happy. I don't know. The stocking fever is different. It's just different. You know, when they slow down the stocking schedule, the bigger, more educated fish thrive probably better because they've already been through the near starvation phase of expecting feeding at certain times and certain tastes and certain looks, where these stockers, they may not be as attuned to what is naturally available to them. Have been hooked or something scared them, or they learned, you know. Anyway, that's why I think the fall, sometimes the winter, I'm getting too but I used to fish the off season big time, man. It was great. I always did well. Anyway, I guess because there weren't any crowds. But anyway, fishing. And I told y'all last week about the jet-powered kayak. I alluded to it for some reason. I forgot what I was talking about. But being and working in the Atlanta area, divorced, separated from my children, it was tough. And I needed the preoccupation at all times. And so I really picked up my fishing pace. And there's plenty of places north of Atlanta that you can catch some marvelous fish in. I've got maps and I could talk about them with you. Jones Ford, the one in Gwinnett, you got the one in Jones Bridge, Palisades. There's a couple of places that are really, really, before you get into the black hole of whatever called Atlanta. Pace's Ferry. Yeah, man. And I had many a meeting out there on the stream. Say, hey, man, I'm over here on Pace's Ferry. Stop down and talk to me. They'd want to know where I'm at and what I'm doing. And I'd say, I'm fishing. Come on down here to Pace's Ferry, because they were in the area. If not, we'd arrange another time. But yeah. And I'm fishing one day, and I want to say it was further north, up around Peachtree Industrial, north of there. What is that called up there? I don't know. There's a river, a park where you can go in there and go fishing. And when, toward the evening, the water level would rise as demand came up for electricity. So you had just a short time to really get any fishing in before you got washed out. And this part of the river's real shallow, and I'm sitting there, and man, it sounded like somebody was running a darn chainsaw just wide open. Chainsaw, or dirt bike, just running it wide open. I said, what in the heck is going on? And I'm just casting, and I'm pretty sure I was fly fishing at that time. And I'm trying to think if he was going down river or up river. Anyway, I'm going to say he was going up river. And that river is wide there, but it's not very deep. I've never seen any kind of boat in there. Even a John boat. I can't remember the name of that part. There's a lake or something there. Anyway, I'm sitting there and it was a kayak. A motor powered kayak. And I didn't see no motor on that thing. Later I found out that the old boy was developing them, or there was a race for it, and it was a fishing scheme, and they had taken a jet ski motor and somehow configured the intake directly under where the heaviest part of the boat, the most center of gravity, whatever the formulation, and they configured to run that. And you steered it. I don't remember. Some of you steer with your feet, and some of them had a throttle control or joystick. I don't remember what the linkages were. I think it was foot power. Foot controlled the direction. And he goes on up the river and shuts it off. And it's the weirdest thing, man. It looked like he had taken aluminum lawn chairs and figured out some kind of contraption. Say the boat was this shape, and he had these things on the side of the boat, but he stood them up and they did like this, and then he could lay them down, and it gave him them stabilizers, pontoons, the stabilizers, outriggers, and they had them darn old pool noodles. And he could stand up in that kayak and fly fish. Jet powered kayak. Yes, sir. I bet its draft wasn't 4 or 5 inches going up there. I bet it could draft that deep and go. I thought it was cool. Anyway, that is the jet powered kayak. Y'all can verify that. I even looked it up one time, and they did that. Somebody had finally developed it, and they looked like they were cool. How about y'all? I am done planting. I had some losses in the transplant, mostly in the squash family. I don't know whether they didn't harden them off, or I waited too late to plant them and I didn't set them correctly. And we had a lot of rain, and I planted them in hills, and I turned in some what they call topsoil with the soil that's underneath, and made a mound. And some of them look like they're going to pull through in the main garden, but in the part of the garden it ain't getting that much light. I don't have much hope. I have poisoned that tree I talked about, and the leaves of it are off the top, and I know that I need to go out there and hit that thing one more time, but I don't want to overuse any kind of poison. I just want to see if the rest of those limbs will naturally die. It's getting more sunlight than it was. Probably an hour, maybe more. But there may not be enough organic material. And I used old field dirt, just plain old clay. That's all I had. And I've been trying to get it amended. Every time I plant, I always put in topsoil and worked it in. I've used decomposed wood chips and worked it in. I've composted stuff in a compost pile and worked it in. And it may just not have it what it takes yet, but the best thing I've seen to do is plant something like wildflower and wildflower and sunflower. But sunflower needs a lot of light, and they never did take off. But and turnips and collards. That's why I plant those religiously in the yard, because I just let them grow. I don't weed them out. I don't do any of that stuff. I just let them grow. When they flower, I let the seeds, we'll collect them up, but I know some of them already gotten out, and I've had several of them start. Matter of fact, talked about it last week. What a segue. Worked out just fine. Talked about them overwintered collard greens out there and turnips. I went out there and picked a bunch of them darned old collard greens. Boy, I got me some pretty ones. Yes, sir. I found a bag of 15 bean soup in the cabinet. Yes, sir. That's what I did. I deveined them collard greens and chopped them up. But before I did that, I took that onion and that garlic and put it in the water and let it started cooking, so that the flavor from the garlic and the onion and the smoked meat, I had 2 ham hocks that were in the freezer. And when I was at the grocery store, I found a real good buy on some smoked pork neck. So I put a pork neck, half a pork neck, whatever, and a ham hock in that water with them onions. And I soaked the beans overnight on Saturday night, got up early Sunday morning and put them in the crock pot, throwed in the onion and the garlic and let them go to town. And then in the afternoon, when the beans were done, I added a can of tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, in that seasoning packet that comes in it, and stirred it in, ham flavored or whatever, but it already had the ham hock and the other half of that ham hock and neck in it, along with garlic and onion. So I don't know if it did anything. It probably had a little sodium in it, but then I turned my attention over to them collard greens, man, and they were fork tender. I just shut them off and let them cool so I could shovel them in better. And made the cornbread. When the cornbread was ready, I had dinner, me and my wife. And then she took some down to the kids, and I put the rest in the freezer. I think 3 helpings of each in the freezer downstairs. So that little bit of money, couple dollars for the beans, garden grown collard greens, pennies for the onion and the garlic, in the pot, with maybe $10 in total of pork meat. And it fed 4 people, me twice actually, and put 3 helpings aside. So I could have fed 7 people on about $10. 7 people for $10. That's a pretty good bargain, $1 and some change per person for a meal. That's why I thought I need to open up an old chain restaurant called the Soup Kitchen. Don't serve anything but bologna sandwiches, that kind of thing, and a bowl of soup. Or you can just get a bowl of soup. You can eat it in there, you can take it out. Boy, you better sell a lot of that, though. Anyway, and I went out there and bent my back, and I put in several mounds of the 3 Sisters, where you do corn, squash, and beans. And I alternated the squash. I put in crook neck squash in one, put in zucchini squash in another, and then repeated that. And in the middle, I put in a pumpkin just to see if it would go there. put out some oregano, put out some basil, the little starts that I had told you I had in the basement. I had one sunflower and one watermelon. I just stuck it out there in the middle of the garden. If it takes off, it'll take off, but it's out there. And I planted a small patch of Blue Lake beans, and I got those tamped in. So I think the planting's done until fall. And I didn't transplant those gardenias I got. I don't know if I could still do it yet or not. I don't know. I really hadn't decided where I want them. Yeah, I think you can transplant them anytime as long as you do it properly and take care of them and don't let their roots get dry in that transition period. I don't know. I have to find out for sure. But anyway, that's what's going on around the homestead. It's now it's just a weeding and mulching thing in the gardens, you know. I did that no-till this year, and I went out there a couple times already and had to relearn how to operate that hoe. That might be why my hand, I don't know if y'all see that, hands are flaky and might have worked a blister in them, didn't even know it. I don't know. But, when I was out there hoeing away, I was thinking about back in the day that was everybody did that. Everybody did that. Everybody had a front yard and a backyard, and they grew stuff there. If you didn't have a farm or you didn't have a large piece of land where you grew stuff really, you know, pig, a cow, or whatever, if you had, I don't know how many acres it would take, 5 or 10 acres to do that thing, then you had a house and you had a garden, you had your fresh vegetables, yeah. Anyway, a little can something or another every now and then. You went to the grocery, but anyway. And then on Tuesday, when I'm doing all this planting, you know, I told you I had some collard greens and a little bit of kale and some turnips over winter. And so I'm out there weeding, and I look down, and there's a turnip as big as my fist sticking up out of the ground. Purple, pretty purple on top. I said, by God, I got to have some of these darned old turnip greens. So I snatched that thing up out of the ground, and I throwed it to the side. And by the time I was done, it was mostly dehydrated, but I don't care. I deveined it and chopped it and took that old turnip and washed it real good. Washed everything real good. Then I chopped that old turnip up, and, you know, pieces about that big. I don't know, hell. And throwed them in the pot with some onion and garlic. And I don't think I had any smoked meat left. But what I did is I had some bacon fat, and I took a half a teaspoon of that old bacon fat and drizzled in there. And I came down to the office and did some work. And when I could smell them, I went up and checked on them. They weren't quite ready. I came down there, finished things up, and boy, them things was good. There is a difference between them collards and the turnips, and I'm not sure which one I like the most. I don't know how long I could eat them, as long as necessary, I'd imagine. But, yeah. So, man, just without doing it, I didn't till them things up. They're still out there. They'll produce seed heads. I'll let them reproduce. I'll let them seed. All I'll do is keep the garden mulched. I'm going to see how this thing goes. And if I don't recognize a plant, I may let it grow up to the point where I know it's a weed, then pull it out. But you know, you learn. You know what you might not know exactly what it is, but you go, it's either this or that. Yeah. And you let it grow. And hell, I got some stuff out there that most people cut down with a lawnmower. I turn it into an ornamental, just because I like it. I don't know if it could feed me. I didn't look at it last year. There was a poke bush there. a couple years ago in that same spot, and it did real well. Boy, I had that thing looking like a tree. It was all pretty. Anyway, they were good though. So now they'll probably start dying back. And I told my wife, I said, if they're dead, just lay them down and step on them and leave the roots be. Just leave everything in the ground and pick all the rest of your new fruit around it. Just keep stepping it down. And then at the end of the year, you could go out there and pull it up and gather up the stems, but the roots, that connective tissue, that beneficial mold, those microorganisms that help that plant produce good fruit will give the next crop a head start. So that's the philosophy. And that's what I'm going. Oh, man. I was going to tell y'all the darn wiffle golf ball story. But I have sure enough run out of time running my mouth. Well, shoot. Y'all going to have to hold on. The last week's video said it had 3 views. I don't know if it was me reviewing them or something and didn't watch them all the way through and it gave me credit. I don't know. Or somebody else just stopped in and looked at this babbling fool on this YouTube thing. Anyway, it don't matter to me. But remember, the Clayton Market, Farmers Market's now to October. I read the newspaper and I just didn't find anything that interesting in it. I guess I was kind of between a lully day. I may not have paid very much attention, but they are having the ramshackle this weekend. Y'all go have fun, man. Go show them what you got. Go check out the little town. It might be fun. I don't know. I'm shy of crowds. Let's see. Did I cover everything? Jet-powered kayak. Done planting. Collard greens, turnip greens. And I don't have time to tell the golf ball story. I weren't so long-winded, but I think it needs to be dressed up properly. It's that kind of thing, man. We got time for sale. I'm still looking for the mulch hay. I have seen people selling hay, but I don't know if it's for feed or if it's for mulch. If it's for feed, I'd rather go to a farmer who could use it. And if they've got some last year stuff, I'd rather have that. I would just rather have that age on it. Cows like fresh grass. I like unfresh grass. And it's both for beneficial purposes for both of us. But anyway, I am looking for mulch. And I see it coming up on Facebook Marketplace now. And I was in the grocery store. Old boy had about, I don't know, like 5 or 6 cases of PBR. And he looked like he was dressed for work. And I said, now that is a man with style and taste. And he looked at me and like, hey, I got 100 acres of hay to cut tomorrow. I said, oh man, yeah. I don't know if he's going to drink it all himself or he's getting it for the hands is going to help him. I don't know. He says, you want to come help? I said, man, where at? Anyway, I should have took him up on that. Me and my fat ass out there struggling, putting up hay. I hope he didn't take me the wrong way. I really was trying to be friendly. And I do like PBR beer. And I thought that was stylish to me. I thought that was the thing to drink. If I were drinking beer, that's what I would probably drink, PBR. I used to drink them in the tall boys. I like them short boys, but for the money, But anyway, I enjoyed it. And then a little splash of tequila every now and then on top of that. Yes, sir. Anyway, I hope he got all his hay done. He had some good weather, so I'm sure they did. And I see it for sale on the Facebook. Maybe someone will come up for me and I can get it on the garden. Anyway, I'm also still looking for that Harrow disc. I I feel like I want to post it on Facebook, but it would be much more rewarding for someone here that lives near me to say, I have one or I know someone, I will check for you. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to find a more personal connection than the Facebook. There's too many scoundrels in the world anymore. If you're going to be on here, maybe you can vet me and I can vet you eventually. I don't care if you want to stop in and watch, but before we exchange all that personal information, yeah, we have some understanding we'll have to have. Anyway, boys and girls, it shows it is 7:01. It is time for me to get off here. They've been cutting this video off because of my tardiness getting off of here. So anyway, y'all have a grateful week, and we'll see you next time.